So today in the Gamers Room, we are going to look at using a pre-made dungeon from a module and recreating it with the WarLock Tiles. So here is the map from the book, and the first thing you see is that we're going to have to take that C15 room and drop it down because we just cannot have corners like that I've circled. Next thing is the C11 will have to be squared off. And then C13 is a 3x3 room, so it has to become at least a 4x4 room. And then all the hallways have to be at least 2 squares wide. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the wall on the south side of the C19, dropping it down to make those rooms 2x2s. This is about as far as planning as I went. Once I got to this point, I kind of got an idea of how I was going to adjust it, and I would just kind of do the back half on the fly. One thing of note is that once I drop that C15 down, that wall with all the doors becomes continuously all the way through the build, which means I can then use an exterior wall and not have to worry about the half-inch offset that creates.
So like I said, as you can see, I pulled this area down, made all of the corridors double wide, squared off the front. Then we made this area bigger to accommodate the grid system. And then of course, when we ended up with a wall all the way across through the whole setup, it lets us use the exterior walls without getting off grid, which was great in the situation because this build incorporated a lot of doors, so it allowed us to use these exterior doors along that line. And cut. So at this point, most of the pre-planning was done. I was just able to build out the floor and fill in walls where needed. Some rooms got bigger, some got smaller to accommodate the grid system, but ultimately I just kind of filled it in and it worked itself out. When you get to the back, once again, since we had a wall that went through the entire setup, I was able to use the exterior walls, which let me use these doors. That was quite helpful. This room is the only room that really had to be modified a lot. It's not quite as big as it should have been, but reading the scenario and knowing what's going to be done within the room can allow you to decide whether or not how important it is to maintain the design that's in the book. And then when I got to the very back, this area right here, when you look at the what was in the book, is very congested, very tight. So basically I eliminated the hallway. The most important thing was that there was supposed to be 2 rooms. So ultimately that's all I cared about in the end, was creating 2 rooms. I reoriented the way they were looking, and that just filled it up. So again, it really comes down to what's in the scenario and how important it is that room match exactly what's in the book. In this case, it was really just a hidden room and area to a lower level, and nothing significant about it. Okay. So as you can see with this build, I ran out of doors. This build used 2 sets, which came with 2 doors each, so a total of 4, plus the 2 extra doors that came in the add-on expansion. But I did have these, which is a different expansion, and they do work well to fill in the gaps. However, I discovered that the base is slightly too big, and it makes it so you can't get it between the walls. You have to actually sit the piece in front of the walls. It really has to do with the fact that even though these don't affect minis, they do have some thickness to them, and they do extend over the grid line, so that these doors should have been made a little bit smaller. Now, they will fit a little tight if it wasn't for the base, so I'm thinking I might be able to take a Dremel tool and carve back that base or try to break it off. I'm not sure. I'm going to put some thought into this and see if there's a good solution, but it will fit if you didn't have the base on there in some situations. Same issue here. The base prevents it from being actually like on the grid line, so it sits slightly in front of it. And if it wasn't for the base, it actually would fit. So these bases should have been a little bit smaller, to accommodate that. Same one here. Again, it would have fit maybe. It's a little bit tighter. When you get, I've seen a lot of people do this. You know, if you have some extra doors left over, you can cover this up with a trim piece, and then it slits right in there. And it works good when you are between two exterior walls. But when you get to be over here, it doesn't fit because the interior walls actually do extend over the grid line slightly. So it works between two exterior walls, but not two interior walls. So how does the system work when you're trying to recreate a pre-built module? It does okay. It's not perfect, but it's probably one of the best systems that's out there. Um, I do believe when they designed this, they were really thinking about corridors to corridors to rooms, where every room is made with exterior walls, and then every now and then you might subdivide it. They weren't really thinking about using interior walls to this level of separation because they did not give nearly enough doors to do that. A few things we could have done differently here. I mean, we got this wall that goes all the way through, right? And I have plenty of exterior walls left over, so we could have used an exterior wall here. But then one side would have to have slid over at 1/2 inch, which would then put it off grid. Is that an issue? I don't think so. I mean, if these two pieces were 1/2 inch off of this one, you guys just walk through the door and you just slide them over. I mean, I don't think it's that big a deal. So there are ways to work around it. We definitely need more interior doors or a way to modify these to make these work better. But recreating modules is doable. This set used all the interior doors, about 3/4 of all the interior walls, and only one set worth of exterior walls and all of the exterior doors. So it took up a good amount, but still left plenty of walls and floor tiles if I wanted to keep making it bigger.
One neat trick I wanted to point out is in this back corner here, I set the interior wall off center. In other words, it's actually spanning two different tiles. And this allowed me to fit those 1-inch doors in there to close this area off. It was a neat little trick that made it look a lot cleaner. So here's just a quick panning shot over the entire dungeon. As you can see, these are the staircases that would have gone to the upper level of the towers. You go through these doors, and this was a kind of an outdoor courtyard area, so some green field tiles or grass tiles would be great in the future for areas like that. The columns were shown on the drawing, so I just used the ones from the pillars and column set. Coming over to the other tower where we have the stairs going up again and back to the beginning.